In today's episode, we're going to set up a simple system of code coverage analysis. When we run our tests, I want to know which lines of code get executed and which do not. Yes, I know. We can't just blindly assume that our tests are any good just because a line of code got executed or not. Right. Well, just don't blindly assume things. But we can assume that code that's not executed is not tested. If you have some method of examining code coverage, you'll be able to easily find obvious code coverage omissions. That in itself is a worthy goal. In order to do this, our basic task will be to compile our code with code coverage options. When we do this, the compiler will create some auxiliary files that will be used in subsequent code coverage analysis. When we execute the code, additional auxiliary files will be created. They add additional information to complete the code coverage puzzle. Finally, we need a tool to look at these auxiliary files and produce some sensible output. Okay, enough talk. Time for action. Let's start by ensuring that we have the source code for today's lesson. Open your terminal window centered on the CoinKit directory. And then, next, let's open the Docker file and observe the following changes. gcovr is a Python tool that will take the prior mentioned auxiliary files and produce some sensible output. Since we already have Python and its pip package manager, we can easily install gcovr. So now let's exit the Docker file, rebuild the image, and run it again. Remember that outrageous command to run the image that we learned in the prior lesson. When we run the image, we start off in the container's root directory. Let's change that now. Okay, now let's compile, link, and execute our test again. But let's add 2 additional compiler flags. This is the same command from the prior lesson, except that we've added 2 additional compiler flags to add code coverage. Now let's look at the directory listing. You can see extra star.gcno files. What exactly they do is not important unless you're trying to dissect the operation of code coverage. For now, just know that the compiler creates them when you compile with the code coverage options. Now let's execute A out. Looks like it works exactly the same way. But if we take another peek at the directory listing, we can see 2 more star.gcda files. Same deal as before. Just realize that it's code coverage stuff. No need to dig further at this time. So now it's time for the final piece of the puzzle. We have all this code coverage information, so how do we make any sense of it? That's an excellent question, and I'm glad you asked. How about, poof, look at that. I think this output is fairly self-explanatory. If you want to get fancy, study the command line options and figure out how to output HTML or XML. Well, that's all for today, folks. Please be sure to come back soon for the next episode of
The CoinKit Chronicles.